Welcome back to the second half of tonight's forum. If you're just joining us, it's the 7 o'clock hour, and we are going to move into the second half of this, and I have a few announcements to make. Again, if you turned on your cell phone or turned it off of shh, please turn it back on silent.
If the cell phone rings, I get to answer it.
So please turn it back on silent.
You don't want to answer.
That's terrible. Again, restrooms down the hall. If you came in for the second half, it's the Downtown Business Group. I feel like I'm on cable access. It's the Downtown Business Group, and we're having an evening with both of the mayoral candidates. They've each been provided questions, and those of you who were here before, you heard the questions. It's the same ones, because these were very important to get a clear sense of an answer to. And so that's sort of why this is happening. The snacks will still be out at the end, and I see there's still some cookies left. And I do want to publicly thank Joanne Bakery down the way. I know we went in to pick up a certain number of cookies, and they were gracious enough to double it for us. So because they're free, you can eat twice as many. So don't worry about that. Just walk a couple times to the parking garage before you get in to go. I'm not going to say anything about the district. I said that to you before, but great things are happening downtown, and we know that. And I want to make sure, and Jason also in the back wants to make sure to remind us all the time that this is not the same downtown it was even 3 years ago, and it will be even more so moving forward. Part 2 with Dave Snow, I will give you a literal 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Okay.
And then we'll move into our questions, and different members of the audience have the questions prepared and will stand and speak them. So,
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for having me here. This is very impressive to see this level of civic engagement, so I really, really appreciate everybody being here. My name is Dave Snow. As most of you know, I'm going to try and rush through this because I only have 2 minutes and he is timing me. I spent many years as a local broadcaster, but also as a community organizer. It was my work in radio that got me very involved with our community. And so once I started doing things like coat drives and food drives and becoming much more involved and much more connected, I developed a real passion for the city. And so that's why I developed things like City Fit and City Life, and I sit on the RSO board. And so I've spent many, many years. I've played a very key role in the Richmond City Fireworks. I'm the director of the Fireworks 5K, so I stay very involved, and it's very important to me to foster a wonderful community, because to me, a strong community is the foundation of a successful city. That's been my motto for many, many years, and I've worked very hard on that. So we'll expand more on my career in radio and what took me from radio and that transition to community organizer, but it's important for you to know, I come from a working class family. My father has worked at Richmond Casting for close to 30 years. My mom was a cashier down at Hooks on South 9th. Most of you probably remember that. And then she moved over to being a cashier at Cox's until she put herself back through school to become a nurse. And she was about 44, 45 years old when she did that. So she was really scary, but she did it. Now she's a nurse at Friends Fellowship. That's where she works now. And so what that means to all of you is I hold with me a very, very strong sense of accountability to this community and to the working people that will pay the salary for me to do a good job. And that's really important to me, because I didn't grow up around guys in shirts and ties dressed like this. I grew up around working guys that worked on cars on Saturday mornings and worked very hard for a living and still do. And at the end of the week, they get a little piece taken out of their paycheck to pay the mayor to do a good job. And I take that very seriously. So that is something that I think about all the time, and I stress about, and I want to do a very, very good job. So I've done a lot of homework and a lot of research, and I hope I get to share a lot of that with you tonight. So I'll leave that as my introduction, and then we'll proceed into sort of the Q&A portion.
Thank you. Oh, under 2 minutes. Well done.
Yes.
Question number 1, Barb.
Hi.
Hi.
Which stellar projects are you the most excited about? And how can you, as mayor, help to continue to build on the stellar projects that have already begun? How would you further promote the positive effects Richmond's stellar designation has had on the community and represent Richmond in the pursuit of other future program opportunities?
It's a great question. Thank you. I am very excited about Stellar for a lot of reasons. First of all, I was part of the Stellar presentation team when the state dignitaries came into this very room, and then I was responsible for taking them around the city, and that was one of the most stressful tasks I'd ever been given. That was our second time applying for Stellar. And the first time it didn't go so well. So I was called upon, and they said, Dave, I need you to be an ambassador of the city, a cheerleader of the city, and take these state dignitaries around station to station and represent to them our city, tell them the story of our city, show them about our city. But here's the task. They got to stay dead on time, because if they're a minute late, they take off points, and we can't lose 1 point. And these people were serious. There was no joking around. There was no kidding around. I don't know how many of you were here for that, but they were serious. And so I had to take them around all throughout the city and on a tour bus, on the bus, off the bus, and keep them on time. And probably the most stressful part of it all was when I brought them in here, but they had to be on a bus and be back at the Ford Museum, the Model T Museum, at 2 o'clock on the dot. And some of them were having conversations with very key people of the city, and I literally had to just wedge myself in and say, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you, but you have to get on the bus right now. And it was stressful that day, but it went very, very well, and they all left very happy, and we were designated a stellar city. So not only did I put that level of work into that, but I'm excited about it because there are some very key elements that are coming out of Stellar that I'm very happy about and very proud of for a couple of reasons. First of all, we all know about Elstro Plaza that's going to be under construction here very soon. That's very important for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's sort of a bandwagon effect that's taken hold where people say, why another park? I don't want people to think that the park was an idea. It was never an idea. It was never a group of people that sat around and said, what can we do? Let's build a park. Elstro Plaza was a direct response to site selectors and economic development when they came in and said, if you're going to use second story downtown as residential, start growing this area, one of the things people keep asking about is green space in your downtown area. And so when they sat and looked at that as a need, they looked back on when we used to have the promenade. So this used to be an open street long ago, and then it was bricked up to build the promenade to give us a place to gather, a communal area. You know, that's one of the things that, as Richmond, we need to develop. If somebody comes in from out of town and they say, where do you gather as a city? Where's your gathering place? It's kind of hard to define that. And they tried to build that out here, so they put up the Rose Festival, and there was live music out here in the promenade. But the concept wasn't working so well, especially for the local businesses, and that's what's really important, is the economy of our downtown. So the street was reopened, and then we lost that communal space. We lost that gathering area. Elstro Plaza will bring that back, because now there will still be parking in that lot, still plenty of parking available, but there will be a farmer's market, a water feature, an amphitheater, a gathering place, a communal space, and a place to tie all these elements back together and to add the green space that's been so highly requested by site selectors and economic developers. And that's what Stellar is doing, and so I'm very excited about that. On the heels of the park project of Elstro Plaza, we'll begin the Complete Streets project, and that's where Complete Streets will go down 7th and 10th, and they'll put in a bike lane and a walking lane, and that's really, really important. I'm very excited about that element because I have a strong background in marketing, and I've been excited about that since we first started talking Stellar, because I have a marketing idea for that I want to utilize as mayor and start using to market Richmond in a very heavy way. I haven't shared it with a lot of people, so if I share it with you, do you promise to kind of keep it under wraps? But I'll share it with you. I'll share it with you. Just a little bit. Bill, I'm talking to you. I'm kidding. I have a marketing concept. See, as mayor, it's not just my job to make sure the budget's balanced and keep track of the finances, but it's also my job to be an ambassador and cheerleader for this city and to create lovable, marketable aspects for Richmond. That's what we need. People have to have things they can talk about when they go out of town, and people have to be able to see key parts of our city in our marketing that attract them to the city, and particularly to the downtown, and even reaching around into the depot area. So one of the concepts that I have that I want to see happen is once we get Complete Streets done, and 7th and 10th is widened a little bit so that we have a bike path, a walking path, and car lanes, and then we have our new Elstro Plaza in place. Imagine rentable bicycles in Elstro Plaza so you can ride this loop. And that's how we're going to market it, the loop. So imagine you're with me now and you're sitting on the corner of 7th and Main, and you've got the Chase Tower on your right, and you've got Phillips right across the corner, and you turn left and you go down Main and you drive all the way down here to the theater, then you turn left again and go all the way down to the depot and go through the depot and come back up. That will be called the loop. So how will we market that? Come to Richmond and get in the loop. Because we'll put signs at every corner that can direct you to every aspect in the city. Roger's already smiling, he's on board. So when you go down to this corner down here, it'll say shopping that way. When you go to that corner down there, it'll say Glen Miller Park that way. When you go to this corner over here, it'll say Earlham that way, Cardinal Greenway that way. So anytime a visitor comes into town, whatever they ask for, where's your park, where's a bakery, do you have a local toy store, where's a cool coffee shop, just get in the loop. Get in the loop, circle that loop, you'll find everything you're looking for. And then we start to use that as a marketing tool for outside of Richmond. Now again, keep that in this room for right now. That's for later. But that's just some of the things that I'm very excited about happening with the Stellar project. We have the new facades going in. We already have the downtown wireless. So I am extremely excited and very much looking forward to taking these aspects, growing our city, using them as marketing pieces, growing our tourism, growing our economy, and overall just growing our general base with people that want to come here, whether it's for a 3-day weekend or whether they want to come to stay and live, or what's very important to me is to attract people back that left thinking they could find something better somewhere else, because I want to prove to them that this is where they should have stayed and to come back and replant themselves back here in Richmond where they belong, back home. So thank you for your question. I hope I answered every part of it. There were a lot of parts there.
Question 2, Rachel Hughes.
Hi Dave, thanks for coming this
Thank
evening.
you.
What role do you see the city and yourself as mayor playing in local small business advocacy?
That is very important on a couple of levels. You know, I just sat down and had a conversation with Valerie Schaefer over at the EDC, and as we have this talk tonight, I need to note something really quick. As we have this talk tonight, you're going to hear me do some name dropping, because that's what I do. I go around and I try to talk to all the key people in all these places, but I don't want to even remotely imply that the people whose names I'm dropping are endorsing me or supporting me or on my team. We've already had a little problem with that, so the EDC is releasing a press statement this week about that. But I do have these conversations with people because they're very important. And I was talking to Valerie about some of my economic plans for the city and the things that I want to do to attract economic growth. And she was sharing with me how important it is to focus on our local economy. Because she said, really, what your role needs to be is 2 things. A, focus on the people of the community and always make sure that they have the tools and the resources that they need to be successful, but also help advocate for local business so they can grow and foster properly, and do your part to try to remove as many obstacles as you can from them doing business. Because the last thing we want are great local business owners whose faces are all about this room, trying their hardest to expand and grow, hire new people, and then getting bombarded with red tape. So it'll be my job to do the very best I can to remove some of those obstacles for all of you so that I can be advocates of all of your businesses and see you grow and foster, because that's really important. And that's every bit as, if not a little more important than trying to attract new business into this community, is to see all of you grow. That's where our economy is. Does that help that answers your question? Thank you.
Question 3, Sam Purcell.
What role do you see quality of place and a vibrant, thriving downtown playing in today's concept of economic development? And as a community leader, how would you choose to utilize these concepts to contribute towards local economic growth?
Thank you. I'm very glad that question is asked. That was one of my favorite questions in the list, because right now what I see in Richmond is a huge division between the investment in quality of life and economic development. I hear it all the time. I go to every single city council meeting. I hear this over and over again. Somebody will say, we need to invest in this bike path. And somebody says, bike paths don't bring jobs. And then somebody says, we need to invest in this. And somebody says, well, if you do that, what about our green space? And people can't seem to meet in the middle. I have spent 20 years as a marketing specialist working with local businesses, some of you right here in this room, finding ways to make your business shine through your marketing plan. And right now I work as the marketing director for Johnson Chiropractic. So I understand the marketing aspect of the local business and how to help them grow. At the same time, I've been a community organizer and organized City Fit, City Life, Fireworks 5K, Stellar. I understand the interdependence and the relationship that economic development and quality of life have. And without that understanding, we're in big trouble. And I need to make everyone else understand that. That's going to be a big, big, big part of my job, is to make sure that as a city, we begin to understand how these 2 things tie together to grow our city. The most successful cities in the country understand the interdependence of quality of life and economic development, because they go hand in hand. So as mayor, it's going to be my job to grow these quality of life elements while at the same time working on the economic development and keeping them working in sync together all the time, so that we're not only growing our economic base, but we're growing our quality of life so that people love working here and love living here. So that's very important to me. Thank you.
Question 4, Greg Pott.
With increased activity comes increased demand for essential services such as police protection, street cleaning, recycling, green space maintenance, and snow removal. City budgets are tight and dwindling though. How do you envision the increased need for essential services being dealt with efficiently?
It's a great question. Thank you. And that's a wonderful problem to have. If of all the problems that we could have in this city, saying downtown is growing so fast we can barely keep up, best problem I could hear of. So I absolutely love and welcome that problem. It will be absolutely my job to make sure that as we grow downtown, you have the services you need to make sure that your streets are clean of snow, of ice, of any trash. And I will absolutely, of course, it goes without saying, do my very best to always make sure that you have that. At the end of the day, I mean, here's what I can tell you. Most every person in this room I know on a first name basis. And as mayor, I'm still just Dave, and I'm literally a block away. If you walk outside your front door and you're not happy with what you see, I'm right there, and I'm still just Dave. Most of you have my cell phone number. I mean, you could just say, this is the problem. I mean, Dave, take care of this problem. But it is a very important thing, and I want to see this area grow very much all the way through this loop. And so it's so important to me to keep our economy here and to make sure this economy fosters right here. This is very, very important to me. I don't want to see our economy move too far out east, because I don't want to see it pull the economy that way closer to the highway. I want to see it here. It needs to thrive in the heart of our city. So this will always be a focus of mine, to make sure that this is always an easy area to shop, to walk, to bike, to enjoy, so that people can get around and they can shop and just enjoy the downtown area. It's very, very important to me. Thank you for the question.
Sherry Beach.
Try to keep up, this is a long one.
Okay, I'm ready, I'm ready.
The recent redevelopment of several downtown buildings, including several loft living spaces, has brought to light challenging obstacles, such as complications with zoning, codes, and updating, backdating requirements at a city level due to outdated local urban building standards. These limitations can inhibit extensive renovation projects to the point of making them financially unfeasible, potentially stunting the revitalization of our downtown. So how do you feel about the development of a residential neighborhood in the downtown? And how would you see the city addressing these issues to ensure revitalization of the district, that continues?
Excellent, thank you. Many parts there, you're correct. This is a very, very good question, and I appreciate that I was sent that in advance, because I had to do some homework on that. And I assume when you say developing a residential, you're talking about leaving the base floor as commercial, or the ground floor, and then the second floor is residential. Is that correct? Is that what we're talking about? A lot of these codes that you're referring to, because I started doing some research in this, and a lot of those are not actually dictated at the municipal level. They come from state level and higher, and they're complicated. They're tough, they really are. And I even had a conversation with Tony Foster. Again, that's not a name drop to imply anything. I just had to call Tony and say, explain some, I don't understand what I'm reading. So he had to kind of decipher it for me. But you have to understand that, yes, and this is where I can't be Mr. Glad-hand politician, I just got to be honest. I went through this, I waded through some of this terminology. It's difficult, it's complex, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to safety. That's what's most important. And some of these updates aren't cheap, and I'm completely aware of that. And there is red tape. It's all there to make sure that if there is an apartment of a family of 5 living above one of these businesses, and we got somebody downstairs making t-shirts and they're baking PVC onto a t-shirt to put a screen on it, and that thing catches fire, we don't have, we have to make sure that family has a method of proper egress and proper evacuation, and all of these things need to be in place. But this is a problem that, as I did more research, I found every city has faced as they've done what we're trying to do. This is a wonderful growing pain to have, but it is a pain, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that at all. Once we get through this phase and these things are brought up to code, it'll be smoother sailing after that, and we'll have what we're looking for with the ground level commercial, second floor residential. But safety has to come first, and we have to make sure that all of those codes, building codes, these are things we can't shortcut. We have to make sure they're all done properly and done right, and they are expensive and they are cumbersome, but we have to get through it. I will do what I can. There's not a lot of it dictated at the municipal level, so I'm not going to make 15,000 promises in here that I don't think I can keep. So I'll do everything I can for you, though. I will work as hard as I can to help you get through that process, because I want to see it happen. Did I cover every part of that? There's a lot of parts there. That was almost like a recipe. It was a lot. I think I did, though. I think I did. I feel good about it.
If you didn't, I guarantee somebody will ask a follow-up.
Okay.
We're going to turn the corner now into the open Q&A session. Last time I took the first question, I'll do it again.
Okay.
So Dave, tell me how your time on the radio makes you actually a good mayor. How does that somehow prepare you to do this and do this well?
That's a good question. I like that. Working at a radio station is, I'll have to back up a little bit. I'm glad I'm not timed on this one.
I can change that though.
No, don't do that, don't do that. I'll keep it quick though, I'll keep it brief. Working at a radio station is a very difficult thing to explain to people that have never been part of a radio station. The whole thing is theater of the mind for everyone. And so the only way that I've ever been able to describe this to my friends, raise your hand if you grew up watching Sesame Street. I know most of us probably watched Sesame Street. Or three of us, well, I mean one of the two. On Sesame Street, if you remember or had kids that watched Sesame Street, you had Oscar the Grouch is in the trash can, right? And he would talk, and then he would always go down in the trash can to find something. You guys remember when Oscar would do that? He'd say, hang on, I got it down here. You know, this clunking. Man, when I was a kid, I imagined everything in the world in that trash can. It was all down there. There was a garage, there was a skating rink, it was all there, because Oscar said it was. But in reality, none of that was there. It was just some guy's hand. And so when you work in radio, you go on the air every day, and the truth is, you're in a little tiny box of a studio that's not that well lit, there's no window, you know, it's lonely, but you don't sound lonely. You don't hear this depressed guy turn on the microphone and go, hey, here's another song, I'm alone, it's a beautiful day outside, I'm in a radio studio, it's 400 degrees in here because we don't have air conditioning. And so when people listen to me on the radio, what they heard was something grand, because that's what I made it out to be every day. I love my job. And so how does that prepare me for being mayor? Because what I'm trying to tell you is you're fully 100% self-managed at a radio station. When you walk in the door, they don't hand you anything. They barely hand you a paycheck when you first start, but they don't hand you any special resources, no special treatment. There's no time clock. If you're late, you're late. Figure it out. Deal with it. There's no dress code. If you want to be a bum and not iron your clothes, you're going to have guests in the studio. You're going to have key people from the community stopping in. You're going to look like a bum. If you don't shave and you don't take care of yourself and you can't be places on time, a lot of the live broadcasts you heard, they're free. You don't even get paid to be out there. It's very rare that a festival like Heritage Days or Levi Coffin Days can pay $1,200 for a radio remote, which is how much it costs. It's very expensive. Ask Roger. And they don't have the money for that. And so you'd sit down in a meeting and somebody would say, who's going to go to Heritage Days? Somebody's got to go. And it was always me, because I was the guy that wanted to be out there doing it, because I loved it, and I loved being a part of the community and the festivals and all the activities. So being in radio required me to do several things. A, self-management, which is very, very important. If any of you have done any hiring in the past few years, I'm sure you've encountered some people that are very poor at self-management skills. I had to be a strong self-manager. I had to be able to get things done. There's no one micromanaging you at a radio station. You have a lot of work to do. Being on air is about 18% of your full job. The rest of it, you just got to get done. And as I got better at that, I wanted to do bigger things. And so there'd be no City Fit, there'd be no City Life if I didn't just stay at work until midnight, a lot, to get those things done. So I'd get done with my normal day at work, and then I'd start planning City Fit. And I had to bring a team of people together, give those people a vision, give them goals, keep them on those goals, keep them on task, and get those things done. And so working at a radio station led to my community involvement with different boards and organizations. It led to me being able to bring teams together and assemble a group, give them a vision, keep them on goal, and just create big things in the city. If there's anybody in the room that hasn't seen it, there's a big, gorgeous, wonderful tower of Legos that I'm so proud of in Beaches right now, from Beaches Lego Day. And that represents months of work. It might look like just a tower of Legos, but to me, it is blood, sweat, and tears. It took a lot to get a Lego architect from Chicago who works for the Lego company and travels the world to come to Richmond and build a one-of-a-kind Lego skyscraper with 450 people in Glenmore Park. It was a huge undertaking, and it cost a fortune. And so I had to figure it out. I mean, I just had to figure it out. I had to get it done. I had to get a team of people together to say, this is our vision, this is our deadline, these are our goals, and then get it done. And so all of that is what's prepared me for this.
Thank you.
Sorry about the long answer.
It's all right, you still have some time.
Okay, all right, good.
All right, so thinking about, same thing I said last time, in case you missed it, this is the open Q&A. Please, questions that have to do with downtown or city center. And if I don't want a long preamble, I just want a question, because we were listening to each other at the break, and we're here to listen to the second mayoral candidate. So, and I may cut you off, and I may be rude and offensive, but I think we'll all get over it. Matt. Oh, and please say who you are before you ask your question.
I'm Matt Steagall, and the question I have is your resume.
Mm-hmm.
You know, say you're a community organizer.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear that term, it makes me think of another politician who's criticized for saying
Right,
that.
I understand.
What's your, how does all this organizing equate to community leadership?
Well, leadership, one of the downfalls to everything that I've done, thank you for your question, by the way, and I use community organizer because I started off using cultural entrepreneur, and my committee said, that's a stupid word, stop using it, so then I went to community organizer, and it's a true story, and so you get a little behind the scenes there. How does that translate to leader is, when I was doing City Fit and City Life and all this stuff, these were big things. I mean, City Fit's going on its 5th year, and that's remarkable. I never put my name on it, because it wasn't about me. Now my committee wants to kill me because they say, your name was never on any of this stuff. As a leader, it was my job when I had this vision, because when you have a vision and you say, this is what I want to see, anybody that says, I'm going to do this all by myself and I'm going to get, it's not going to happen that way. You need to understand how to bring qualified people together to get the things done that you need done. So when I said, okay, our city is unhealthy, what can I do to change that? I'm going to start an event called City Fit. Who do I need? I need Reed Hospital, I need Family Fitness Works, I need MedFit, I need Richmond Parks Department, and all of a sudden I've got 7 organizations that I needed, so I had to go out and do the footwork and get them. Then I had to get a volunteer or a representative from each of their organizations, get them at a table. Here's each of your jobs, here's what I need you to do, and you to do, and you to do, and you to do. And everything went so great for that first year of City Fit, except one problem fell through. In my original plan, we were going to have booths, and it was going to be called the Health Hub. And if you were a commercial organization, you pay $100 to be there, and if you were a not-profit, you pay $25. And so I put all the letters out, and all the not-profits said, we're not paying $25 to be there. And then the profits got word of that, and they said, well, if they don't have to pay, why do we have to pay? Nobody paid. So then I had a whole bunch of booths out there, and we had no money. I literally ran City Fit on $82, which was remarkable. And so since then, though, City Fit has garnered sponsorship, and it gets a lot more attention, and it's been recognized at the state. It's been recognized from the White House, which I'm extremely proud of. We're one of the few communities in the country that devotes an entire day to fitness, health, well-being, and living a better lifestyle. And I've had a whole bunch of people come to me and say, that's where I started. So the leadership aspect comes from being able to set a vision, identify the people that can get that done without thinking that I can do it all myself, and then keeping those people on point and keeping them working towards that vision. And I haven't just done that once. I've done that for 5 City Fits, 3 or 4 City Lives, 9 fireworks 5Ks, 4 July 4th fireworks. I've got a lot of experience at this. I hope I answered your question. And if you can think of a better term than community organizer, I will welcome it.
Community leader.
Community leader. Okay, Matt said it right there on his birthday, community leader.
Yes.
Pete Barlow. You talked about business advocacy, quality of place, and essential services, and the importance of those to this community, and your interest in those areas. What do you feel the impediments are to those right now, and how are you going to fix that?
Well, some of those are things that I've heard. Right now, for example, the business advocacy. I have been told, but I have not firsthand experienced some of the hurdles and red tape that businesses experience when they try to go through an expansion or to do new things. And that's going to require me being in that office, because it's very difficult when you're running for mayor because you're on the outside looking in. I'm not in that city building every day, and that's very tough. So I have a full-time job, and the city building operates from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I have to go to my normal day job, and I can't spend all day on the phone or on my computer. And then these questions stack up that I get via text or Facebook at these forums, and then I have to find the time to just call the right people. That's why I said just call Tony Foster and say, Tony, can I ask you a question for just a second? Today I spent some time on the phone with Captain Shake at the police department talking about some things. So I need to firsthand understand what some of the hurdles are that businesses experience and see if I can remove some of those obstacles. City services, was that one of the parts?
Essential services and quality of place.
Quality of place I understand very, very well. I mean, I attended Matt's Quality of Place conference. I mean, I have a very, very good understanding of quality of place and quality of life elements. And when I was talking about the loop, I mean, I don't only have a good understanding of what we have now, but I have a very strong vision for what we can have in the future. And then when we're talking about the essential services, I'm assuming you mean like police, fire, EMS, trash. Yes, and I'm doing my part to ingrain myself in all of those different departments. I've done 2 ride-alongs now with the police department. I've joined the Citizens Police Academy. I spent a whole shift with the fire department and the EMS to kind of gauge what they do. I've had meetings with Bill Harris over in sanitation to understand better what they do. So, I mean, these are all things that are very important to me. And I guess what I'm trying to tell you is I want to be very careful in my approach to them. I spent 20 years in radio. And if somebody would have come to me and said, there's going to be an election, and the person that wins is going to come in and run the radio station. And my first question would be, have they ever worked in radio? I don't know, they haven't, but they're going to win an election and run this way. I would be furious. And so I want to be very careful about how I talk to the police department and the fire department and EMS and sanitation, because those aren't jobs I've worked. And I don't want to come in like a blowhard know-it-all saying, well, you know, when I come into office, this is how I'm going to change things that you're doing, because they, you know, these are all good people that work very hard for the city. So I'm ingraining myself in these departments to better understand what they do, so that when I do take that office, I can already have a better understanding of how they operate, so that I can find efficiencies in what we're doing. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Dave, Eric Van Vliet.
thank you.
Small businesses need customers.
Yes.
And customers that have a little bit of money in their pocket.
Mhm.
And one of the facts of this area is we're depopulating. Between now and 2030, we're going to lose another 10,000 people.
Right, which we can't afford to do.
Which we can't afford to do.
Right.
And I know that's a subject near and dear to all of us for the robust and vitality of our local economy.
Mhm.
What plans, ideas, thoughts do you have about that?
Thank you very much for your question. Several plans that I'm working on right now. You know, I told you that I've been working on an economical forecasting plan to look at the future economy of the city. And one of the things I've been doing in that is trying to look at some of the 5 fastest growing economies in the country and identify companies within that to match with the assets that we have here. But at the same time, I have to do what's been brought up a few times and make sure that I'm advocating for the local business. At the same time I'm doing that, I have to be an ambassador and a cheerleader for this city and use my marketing assets to market this city outwardly so that we have people coming in. That's going to be very, very important, and keep people from leaving. That's going to be one of the best attributes to having a young, energetic mayor. We have too many young people that, and we all know this, we hear this all the time around here, that they get their education and off they go. But I'm someone that the young people know very well. You know, I'm going to share with you something that actually I haven't shared with anyone yet. This is a problem we just encountered as of Friday afternoon, and you'll probably be seeing a press release of this in the next week. To give you a better understanding of my connection with the young demographic in this city, we just did something Friday that I didn't even think was possible. If you'd have told me when I started running for mayor that this was going to happen, I would have said, you're crazy. I just literally maxed out Facebook on Friday because I connect so deeply with the young people of this community. The support's been so overwhelming that I got a warning from Facebook that I was at my friends limit, which is ridiculous. So now we have to do a social media overhaul because we can't accept any more social media friends, which is insane. And by the way, that limit is 5,000. So I have 5,000 people in this community that are following every word I say on social media at this point. And that just tells you the depth of connection that I have with the young people. I have registered dozens of young people that have said they've never voted before, but they want to vote this time. And so my job will be to take them from that registration paper to the polls and then staying here in the city, because I'm going to prove to them why it's important to stay here. So it's a big job I have, and it's a job that I'm ready for. And it's very, very important to me that this city maintains its young people and continues to grow. And I actually, something that's very much now, I'm going to say this is not one of those campaign promises. This is something I'm just looking at and working on. I used to work with a young man at the radio station who used to do our news. Some of you might remember his name was Brent Whitlock. If you guys remember Brent, we did the news and sports. Brent came from Iowa, some city in Iowa. I can't remember what the name of the city was. But his city contacted him, and they said, we've lost too many young people, so we've put together a stimulus plan. If you come home, we've got this fantastic interest rate for you to buy a house, and we'll give you some little bit of cash, and we've got these few other incentives. And he said, I can't pass it up. I got to go home. And he packed up and he went home. I don't know why in the world we can't do something similar to that. I don't know why we can't come up with a stimulus plan for people that we know used to live here and then took off somewhere else to raise their family. What can we do as a city to bring them back? And I am very confident we can do that through an effective stimulus plan for them and through some good marketing and showing them that we're not the city they left. Because I know we're not the city they left. I've seen it. I see this room full of people. This is a very new city, and I'm very proud of what we're doing these days. So I'm very confident we can maintain our population base and grow in the future. Thank you for your question. Is that it?
Oh, I'll make up questions. I got a whole hip pocket full. Sure, Matt, go ahead again.
Well, housing
Only
rehabilitation.
because it's your birthday.
Only because it's your birthday, Matt.
It's a great gift.
You get 2 for your birthday.
Housing rehabilitation. A lot of our downtown neighborhoods, residential neighborhoods, are suffering from deterioration and decline. They've been that way for decades. there are efforts to bring that around, make improvements. What do you think you can do?
When you say downtown, now were you speaking residentially or commercially down here?
I'm talking about the whole center city area. We have 6 National Register historic districts in Richmond. All have great economic potential to add to the quality of life. How can we develop those areas that surround the downtown and the
Now, I feel like
city?
some of that's being done right now. So, I mean, I think that if, you know, as mayor, if I'm making sure to give metropolitan development the tools they need to get their job done, I don't want to create too much of a redundancy of service. I mean, you're paying me as mayor to make sure that I'm delegating the right jobs to the right people. And that's a job for metropolitan development. I mean, that's part of the blight program, the restoration programs, and all those. I don't want to create a duplication of services where I'm doing something that I should be delegating out to someone else that actually knows it better. So that is something I would delegate to metropolitan development. If you're talking about commercially, I have a tremendous amount of faith in this area economically because I really, truly, this isn't hype one bit. I truly believe that this is in a period of renaissance right here. There was a point in time, you know, here, let me back up a little bit. I have people come to me all the time and they say, what can you do to make downtown like it was? I see these old pictures of downtown and it's just like thriving, full of people. And I often say, but if you could, if there was like high def technology and you can zoom in on their faces, they're probably all grumpy. Because back in 1964, there was no big box America. So when they went out for their just daily shopping, there was a shoe man and a clothier and a produce and a butcher shop. And you had to go 27 different places to just get your simple list of needs. Today, we go in one store and we get snow tires, eggs, bread, jeans, shoes. We get all under one roof. And so back then, this was bustling, but I don't think they were necessarily happy. And then the whole concept shifted to this whole, let's shop everything under one roof. But as we've seen more and more and more, I want to talk to this guy here because of the look he's giving me. We've shifted more and more and more to this concept over the years of I want it under one roof, but now you're seeing more and more people that want that concept back. More and more people say, I want my produce from a farmer's market. I want my produce from somebody that's locally growing it. I like unique jewelry. I like hats that are handmade. People are just getting tired of that concept. And that's why this is in a renaissance period right here. This, I think, is right on the verge of just a tremendous expansion, a tremendous growth, and a lot of young people, so you got to think young, that's very important. This is the concept that young people want to shop in. You take your average 14-year-old, and they're not, you know, the 14-year-old of 1982 said, I want to go to the mall. The 14-year-old of 2015 doesn't say that anymore. This is where they want to be. This is a cool place to them. And so that concept is shifting in America, and we need to be ready to capture that and expand on it. But I want to go back here. Tell me what the look was for.
Well, you're talking about what Richmond used to be like. And what I heard you say was people weren't happy and everybody was mad back then. And
No, don't misconstrue that. I was just talking about, no. No, I just meant the way that their day was laid out is so much different. You know, now I can go, after I get done here, I can go to Meyer and I can get everything in the world I need. And it was just tougher back then to get all those, or do you think it was still easy back then?
I'm not going to say it was easy.
Yeah.
Your day was spent maybe doing different things, but it wasn't an unhappy,
Right.
It wasn't an unhappy day. It
Right.
wasn't an unhappy
And
experience.
I want to expand on that a little bit what you're saying, because a lot of people come to me all the time and they say, what can we do to make it like it was? I want to make Richmond like it was. And there's a saying that I say to people all the time, because I don't know how many of you know this in this room, but I'm like a major health nut. I eat really super healthy. I run every day. It just annoys people, so I won't get into it. But
I feel you.
they get tired of hearing about it. But they always say, oh, Dave, you know, you're getting close to 40 now, buddy. You're getting old. Well, how's all this healthy stuff helping you now? You're getting old, buddy. And, you know, I heard that for so long that I finally came up with a comeback to it. And I said, you know what getting old is? Getting old is when your memories are a lot better than your dreams and your goals. That's when you're old. And when you're old, you're dying. And I think the reason that people think that Richmond is a dying, old city is because it's so much easier to reminisce than it is to look forward. And one of my biggest jobs as mayor is to get everyone looking forward again. You know, our past is our past. We've learned a lot from it. It's a great past. But we got a lot of good old and dying and out of touch because our history was so much better than our future. I don't believe that for a minute. I think it's ridiculous. And I'll just tell you right here in front of this whole room, our future is fantastic under the right leadership and going in the right direction. And I'm positive we can all have great things to look forward to. So I want to get everybody thinking more forward and less backward.
We have time for one more question before we wrap this up for the evening. Sam.
Would you mind talking a little bit about how you would address drug-related issues in our community? Because although that is a community-wide issue, those problems have created a stigma that
They
has
have.
greatly affected the
Yeah.
downtown.
You're right, absolutely. Thank you for the question, yes. I am doing everything in my power to address this drug issue. It is so complex, it is so multifaceted, it is so complicated, and it's not a problem that Richmond bears on its shoulders all alone. It is a problem that is as widespread as, traffic jams across the country. It is a terrible, terrible problem. So what have I done personally to deal with this? I joined the Citizens Police Academy. I've attended Heroin is Here committee meetings. I've done ride-alongs with the police department. I told you I spent time with the EMS. I have, I've met with the Wayne County Drug Task Force. I've attended lunch with law enforcement. I'm doing everything. I have 2 drug counselors now on my mayoral committee just to help me understand, because that's a huge part of it. I did not grow up with a drug problem in my home or in my family. So how do I understand why someone turns to a drug problem? Why heroin? What is the deal with heroin? Where are they getting the heroin? How much is the heroin? How are they taking the heroin? Because I need to understand all this before I can begin to address it. And so, the hardest part of this conversation for me to have with the city is the part where I have to tell a room of people like you that some of the burden falls on our shoulders. That's a hard thing, that's a hard pill to swallow. It's tough. Because when you're like me and you didn't grow up with addiction in your family or your immediate household, you say, well, it's not my problem. I'm not out there sticking a needle in my arm. But the fact is, it is our problem. Because we can't arrest our way out of a heroin issue. We can't do it. We have a multifaceted problem that relies on supply and demand. And the demand side of that problem is a community problem. Why are people in our city turning to drugs? Why are they losing hope? Why do they feel like they have nothing left in the world and they turn to drugs? That's our issue to deal with. It is. And then once we start chipping away at that demand, we will rely on our law enforcement to chip away at the supply. But as long as there is a demand, our law enforcement can't touch that supply. They'll work their tails off doing it, but it's a battle they feel like they're losing every single day. So it's up to us to figure out why our friends and our neighbors are turning to heroin and other drugs, and figure out how to be more vigilant, and how to be advocates, and how to be more aware, and how to stop this from happening. Isn't that tough though? That's really hard to deal with, but it's the facts. So I'm very proud that the Heroin is Here committee is doing things now to make public awareness of our problem, because we do have a problem, and it's time for us to admit that and address it, and to start addressing it as a community. Because it's only once we do that that we can then support what the law enforcement is doing to chip away at the supply of this issue. But we absolutely have to get it under control, without a doubt. We're losing too many young people and too many great functional people in this community to drug addiction. I see our coroner quite often, and I talk to him face to face, and it's terrible. The stories he has are terrible. The drug counselors that I talk to, the stories are terrible. We have people in this community that are functioning, they're mothers and fathers, they're doctors and nurses, they're factory workers, that are shop foremen, that because they've lost their pain medication, they start using opioids as a way to deal with their pain, then they're heroin hooked, and then it just all goes downhill from there, and they lose everything. Some of them have lost their lives, and it's terrible. But it's a burden we're all going to have to carry, and we're going to have to deal with it together. So you can expect that from me as mayor to fully count on you to share this burden of a drug problem with the whole city so we can take care of it. Because that's what we have to do. Thank you for your question.
Let me wrap a few things up. Thank you, Dave, for joining us this evening. We have 45 seconds. I was told to keep track of time. If you've not signed the cards, the thank you cards are there. When is the election? What day is the election?
November 3rd.
Thank you. Isn't that a Tuesday?
Yes.
Isn't it usually a Tuesday?
You know, Dakota's been doing that since kindergarten.
We have registration forms here too, in case anybody needs to register.
Since kindergarten, he's been the guy that shots out the answer first before anybody.
And I do want to say, if you have not registered, comma, if you moved recently, comma, or if that lapsed, by when does one have to register to make it into this election?
October 5th.
Thank you. So, part of why I'm standing up here is I live in Boston Township.
I have no dog in this fight, except that I work in Old Richmond, and I have my own company based in Richmond, and I sit on the board here, so I have a lot of opinions. I just can't go to the polls and share them, hence our conversation tonight. So, finish the snacks. Thank you to the folks who organized this. I would like to give a special round of applause for them for putting this on. We are adjourned. Thanks again for coming, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.